everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks also for those who came early to join us for the meditation. Is anybody in now? Anybody still hanging out out here? Okay, so welcome everybody, and thanks for coming. My name's Jason Puglisi. I'm the founder of the Holistic School of Business. Welcome to our Monday night speaker series. Hello, come on in. Welcome to our Monday night speaker series. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce Nancy Marriott this evening. Nancy is going to be speaking on the topic, Birthing Books That Make a Difference. Become a freelance editor, ghostwriter, and coach for holistic books. This is a brand new space. You are all completely welcome to come and enjoy this space. The intention here is that it be a community resource. So please do, feel welcome. Feel free to, just make yourself totally at home here. It's really here for you. So, I would say that the purpose of everything that we do here is to help people find that deeper calling inside of themselves and to bring it out into the world in the form of a successful life's path, specifically a successful business. So, that's really, we offer specific practices and tools that help people to do that. So it's really everything that we do here kind of revolves around helping people really connect with who they be deep down inside. So we incorporate, meditation and self-discovery, coaching principles, tools, processes. We kind of interweave that with business development work, so that way people can really kind of unravel that core message. Why am I here on this planet? What am I here to do? What's my unique natural gift? How am I here to serve others? How am I here to make a difference? So that's really, if I had to kind of boil it down into, one phrase, we're here to help people realize and to actualize their full potential in this lifetime. That's what we do here. We have a lot of fun in the process. At least I like to think we do. So tonight we have Nancy Marriott, and then next week we have Sherry Glevis, who is a real powerful healer and teacher. She's going to be teaching on the topic, the power of prayer, mantras, and intention setting. Okay, and then the following week, I will be presenting on how to use your website to grow your heart-centered business. So I think that's going to be, the next 2 weeks are going to be really fun as well. So I would invite everybody to keep coming back. We have a pretty amazing lineup. There's brochures in the back that have the entire lineup of speakers. You'll note, though, that we just changed. I'm presenting on the topic in 2 weeks instead of the gentleman who's listed in there. So there's been a change in the schedule. And if anybody's who's here for the meditation, or even if you weren't here for the meditation and you want to learn more about the practice, there's a bunch of written literature, some articles that you could pick up copies of. One of them kind of goes through the meditation practice that we covered today, the guided meditation instruction. So I think it's called How to Do Mindfulness Meditation Practice. So that covers the sitting practice, but then there's another article that talks about walking meditation, how to do walking meditation. And then there's another practice, which is actually my favorite of all. It's how to do pause practice, which is a 3 breaths practice, meditation practice that you could literally do anytime over the course of the day. It's just a real deep practice. It's an article written by Pema Chodron. Anybody ever heard of her?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really great article. I would suggest everybody grab at least a copy of that one before you walk out the door. So it's good stuff. The next couple of weeks and all of our Monday Speaker Series events start at 6:30. And you're welcome to come at 6 o'clock for the meditation. And, if you're interested in, learning more about the school, there's even a $2,500 grant opportunity. You can enroll in our programs, and literally, if you qualify for a grant through the state of Vermont, you can get a grant to pay for your tuition in our programs. So if anybody wants to learn more about that, you can talk to me afterwards. Again, my pleasure, Nancy. Thank you for coming. Nancy is the founder of New Paradigm Writing and Editing Services for Books. She is committed, and this is what I really love about Nancy so much, she is committed to transforming consciousness through her work. She works with writers and editors who want to make a difference, who have some kind of transformative message, and she helps them to get their message out through writing and through editing, through inspiring them to do their very best at what they do, because she knows that when she does that, she's helping to, get them, help to initiate healing and transformation on bigger levels. So it's kind of like this trickling out effect. And it's a beautiful thing that Nancy is doing. She's been a freelance book editor, ghostwriter, and coach since 1996, when she teamed together with Candace Pert as the writer for Molecules of Emotion. It's a bestseller that established the science behind the mind-body connection. She's also a former college writing instructor. She's a published self-author herself. She helps authors write books that have, again, that transformational impact. She helps people develop online curriculums, and she trains book editors to do the same. So she owns a very successful writing and editing business. And without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce you to Nancy Marriott on the topic of birthing books that make a difference. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much, Jason, and thanks for that great introduction. I hope I live up to it. And thank you all for coming. Welcome. For joining me this evening for probably about 1 hour's worth of what I can share with you about what it is to be a book editor, a freelance book editor, a book editor of transformational subjects, books that make a difference. So my purpose is to inspire you and also give you some access to how you could do that if that's something that you want to do. I have to say I'm a little nervous because even though I taught college for over 20 years, I've been an instructor in writing, I've been an instructor in English second language, I've never taught editing. So this is the first time I'm teaching editing. And I thought, oh, a piece of cake, it's really different, and I'm a little nervous. So if you see me looking at my book and leaving you for a second, it's because I don't want to miss anything. I really want to give you everything I have. And when I get nervous, of course, what do? I skip things, and I don't want to do that. So that being said, I will relax. Okay. So my specialty has been what I called New Paradigm books. New Paradigm meaning a new way of seeing life, consciousness, spirituality, health and well-being, alternative medicine, all kinds of subjects like that. Also, you could say holistic books, or a new term that's coming in that I love called transformational nonfiction. This is a new buzzword, and I'll show you some examples of these books. But you probably know them. If you're here tonight, something about that title, Birthing Books That Make a Difference, might have attracted you because you have read some of these books. Deepak Chopra, we all know him. Eckhart Tolle, we all know him. I could go on and on and on. And in fact, I'm going to give you some examples, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. But these are the kinds of books that I had a lucky break to become an editor and a ghostwriter for. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. Am I talking too fast?
No. Perfect.
I might speed up as we go along. I'll try not to. I get excited. Even though I'm nervous, I'm very passionate about book editing, and I'm very passionate about books that make a difference, because my life has been changed by books. And I bet you can think of at least one book that changed your life. So to be participating in that kind of impact, it just inspires me, and I'm going to inspire you about that also. So I got started, well, I was always a writer. In 3rd grade, I wrote a short story that got posted on the board or whatever, and that was the beginning of my career. In high school, I loved English. I loved my English teachers. I learned to write. I paid attention to sentence structure while everybody else nodded off. I loved the word. The word had magic for me, even as a child. So of course I go to college and I major in English. And my very first composition in freshman composition, I wrote this really great composition. I handed in, I came back a few days later with a D. Here I am, an English major, proclaimed my freshman year because I know what I can do. I was devastated, and I'll show you why. I made a very funny mistake, and I bet, well, let's see if you can see this mistake. This is the word I wrote. Who sees right away what my mistake was? I spelled it wrong. That word is not spelled like that.
No.
It's such a common word. It looks kind of funny, doesn't it? This is what I did. And that teacher went nuts when he saw that word. He did not like that. I'll never, ever spell that word wrong. Never, ever. So I revived. I got back up. I became an English major. I graduated. I went to the University of Massachusetts. And I actually then went on to graduate school at Columbia University, but all the while wondering, I love words, but what can I do with them? Oh, become a writer. Well, come on, where's that job description and who's hiring? Become a writer. You know, they weren't hiring. And I wanted to strike out on my own. I wanted to have a career. So I did some teaching, and then I kind of lost my passion. And I did jobs. I kind of settled. I wrote some grants. I was a secretary. I was, what are all those things I did? Oh my God. Everything but what I really wanted to do. I was a wordsmith. You know what that word means? A wordsmith. Oh, heads are nodding because you might recognize you also. But they're not hiring. Where are they hiring for wordsmiths? So I did other things. I settled. But I had a passion and a fire. I wanted to use my creative gifts. I knew someday I'm going to get a lucky break or something's going to happen and I can do that. So, yeah, dead-end jobs. Oof, I had a lot of them. 1995, I got a lucky break. Got a phone call from a girlfriend from high school. Just so happens she was a internationally famous scientist who'd made a big discovery that incidentally revolutionized brain science for the, what century is that in the 19th? The 20th century, right? Okay, it shifted everything from she made the discovery in 1972. Anybody hear of endorphins? You know what endorphins are? Well, this was a woman, as a graduate student at Johns Hopkins, discovered the opiate receptor in the brain. This is the little molecule that receives the endorphin. So then, of course, the rush was on, find the endorphin. It was found. And brain science has never been the same. They mapped the brain, all the receptors, and it actually led to a fundamental, basic understanding of how the mind and the body are communicating. So here we have the mainstream scientist from Johns Hopkins made this discovery and saw the bigger picture. Well, she just happened to be my high school girlfriend, and she called me up and said, "You were the best writer in high school. I remember those words." And I'm very flattered, "Thank you so much, but don't ask me to write your book. I never wrote a book. Yes, I want you to help me. I'll talk, you write, we'll make a great book." No, I can't do that. I've never written a book. You have a big book. I can't do that. Okay. She would not let up. If anybody ever met Dr. Candace Pert at her many conferences, she became a speaker all over the place as a result of that and another book that we wrote together. Susanna.
Yes.
You got the book.
I do.
You do. So it was 6 months later that this book was published. Thanks, I lent it to Susanna. I wrote the 6-figure advance book proposal. Of course, they were all ready to give her a lot of money anyway, and she shared it generously with me. But this book came out in 1996, became a classic bestseller, is still in print 21 years later. It's used in curriculum for training all kinds of things. Every massage therapist, chiropractor, healer knows about her work because she put the science, the teeth into it. We all knew it worked, but now knowing from that viewpoint helped a lot. So that book became big. We wrote it in 6 months. I became a professional ghostwriter, even though my name was not on the outside of that book. I was acknowledged inside as the writer of the book. So you might say, well, you got a lucky break, but I don't see it as a lucky break because I said no. I was scared. What? You're going to put me in a position of responsibility for a book that's got a 6-figure advance? You know how much money that is? Like $500,000. Scribner bid on that book. Scribner, who is now part of Simon & Schuster, because they all melt together. But anyway, so it was rough. It was not easy to write that book. But she knew what she wanted. She talked. We were friends. We had our fights. We had our hanging up the phone, screaming at each other, get back in the arena. We're going to do this. The pressure was on. And it came out. It became a bestseller. 10 years later, a movie called What the Bleep was produced. She was the talking head in that movie. And also her research in the mind-body, remember all the little emotions running around? It's a great movie. That research she did formed the foundation of the movie, became a big movie. We went at it again. We wrote a second book. This time I was acknowledged as the with person, and I wrote the entire book, talking to her, but it was even more of a book that I wrote, so I became a published author. Hay House published that in 2006 called Everything You Need to Know to Feel Good. But notice the play on words, God. So by this time, Candace Pert had found spirituality through the mind-body connection. And this is the book that she came out as a scientist who believed in God. It's really interesting. And not in a religious sense, but more of a spiritual one. Okay, those are my books. Okay, so that's my story. It wasn't a lucky break. It was an opportunity that I said yes to. So, lucky break, okay. But still, I could have, go get a writer, get a real writer, get a professional to write that book. No, I jumped in. Okay, so, like me, maybe you are I like to say, closet wordsmith. Okay, so you haven't quite come out yet. Maybe you're at that stage with your creative skill, your passion and love of words. Or maybe you have. Maybe you have a job or have had a career or jobs using those skills somehow, whether a writer, ghostwriter. By the way, a ghostwriter isn't a ghost. Okay, ghostwriter is someone who teams up with someone else and is either acknowledged or not, in order to bring a book about that person can't write or doesn't want to. Scientists and doctors all need ghostwriters. They don't know how to write popular books. It's a skill that I learned working on that one. But, you may have not gotten a chance to express this creative gift of yours, and you might have settled like I did for many decades in jobs that didn't tap into what I really had to offer. So I thought I'd give you a little quiz that you're not going to get graded on, don't worry, but it'll give you a chance to assess for yourself if this is something that you'd be good at. Book editing, ghostwriting, proofreading, all the skills that an editorial profession can provide authors with. Are you good at this? Is this your thing? So, you want to play?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm going to ask you 8 questions, and you're just going to, you need a piece of paper and a pen, and I have extra. Anybody need a piece of paper? Well, you can give one.
Weren't you going to hand out?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Got pens? Anybody need a pen? By the way, this is my husband, Richard Marriott. I'll be relying on him. And I should introduce one other person who's here tonight. Very special person, Susanna Noel. She's sitting back there. Susanna and I just met a few months ago when I moved to Montpelier from Santa Barbara, California, where I have lived for the past 4 decades. I'm from here, though. I mean, not here, not Vermont. I'm from the New England area and New York. But I went and lived in California for 4 decades, met my husband there. He's from here also, this area, upstate New York. Anyway, I arrived and met Susanna, and the two of us at the same time said, we could teach editing to people. So we discovered each other. We're both editors. Susanna is a top-notch, incredible copy editor and all developmental editor. She does all that. And we just clicked and went, let's teach this to people. So that's what you're going to hear about tonight, is how together with Susanna, I've come up with some great ways to train people to do this. So questions. Anybody need paper or pen? You all got it? Okay. You're just going to write numbers down, like 1 through 5. For 1 is like, not much. 5 is like, yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. You write your own numbers down. Nobody's going to see it. I'm not going to ask you to reveal it. This is you to chance to do a little self-assessment. Okay, number 1. 1 to 5. You love to read. You love to read.
1 is the most.
1 is, no, not much.
Oh, it's just
5 is, yeah. Number 2. You've always been a good writer, but you've never gotten much acknowledgement for your skill. You know you're a good writer. Nobody's ever really full-on acknowledged that. 1 through 5. And it's true. 5 is very true. 1 is not so true. Number 3. You notice text errors when you read anything. Not just books, anything. You notice those errors. You probably saw this one really quickly. Number 4, you look at a piece of writing and you think, wow, I could have helped her or him with that. I could have helped her or him with that. Them, actually, I could have helped them with that. We now use the singular they, according to Chicago.
And the AP.
And the what?
And the AP, the Associated Press.
Oh, the AP
Yeah.
actually came in stronger on that than the Chicago. Chicago is waffling a little. I'll explain all that to you in a minute. Sorry, jargon, shop talk, watch out. Number 5, you are relatively organized, disciplined, and motivated to achieve your goals. Yes? No. Number 6, you have good communication skills. For example, you can be direct in feedback to somebody and not sugarcoat it.
Can you repeat that one?
Yeah. You have good communication skills. For example, you can be direct in feedback and not sugarcoat it. Number 7, you have a basic grasp of grammar, punctuation, and sentence structure. Basic. And number 8, you believe books can change the world. And you can think of books you've read that have changed your life. Okay, so add up your numbers. There's 8 questions. So if you were all 5s, for example, you'd have a score of 40. And if you do, you know, we're going to sign you up because you're aimed in that direction. As your value might descend, you might think, oh, maybe this isn't for me, but don't, because training is something that makes a good book editor. I have to tell you another one of my flubs in life. When I did my practicum to be an English second language teacher, ESL, I had to demonstrate my skill and proficiency to a senior teacher who would sit in the back of the classroom, and I had to prepare a class plan and get up in front of a class and teach a grammar lesson. And I did that, and I thought I did pretty good. And then I met the teacher after the class, and she said to me, "Do you know you taught the wrong verb tense?" It was all about verb tenses. "You taught the present, you didn't teach the present progressive." And I went, "What do you mean? Is there a difference?" I didn't even know there was a difference between two present tenses. So I am getting tired. That's your progressive tense. I am tired. No, I'm sorry. I tire is your present tense. So being, the be verb plus the ing form of a verb is called a progressive tense. I didn't know that. And here I had my certificate from the University of California, trained as an ESL teacher. Well, she had a good chuckle because she said, that's the most common mistake ESL teachers make at the beginning, you know. And she passed me and I got my certificate. But you might say I had a poor grasp of grammar at that point. And the next 20 years of teaching ESL is when I really learned. Any ESL teachers here? English second? That's when I really learned grammar. You don't learn it in school. You don't even learn it as an English major in college. They don't teach it. And you know what? I got a master's degree in English and I didn't know grammar. So my point is, even though you might have come in low on any of these, you still could be a book editor. So, okay, I won't ask who got all fives, but I suspect somebody did. Okay, all fives for you. All right, so now I'm going to introduce to you my topic, which is becoming a freelance book editor. And let me talk a little bit about what's possible from becoming a freelance book editor. So I've got like a general picture to give you, and then I'm going to hone it in to be a little more specific to the niche that I have made my career out of, and you might be one that you're interested in. You might just be more interested generally, so I want to cover all bases tonight. So the obvious benefits of it being a freelance book editor. Again, let me distinguish. Freelance book editor is someone working out of your own office, your own home. You're your own boss. You set your own hours. You set your own prices. And you have the privilege also of choosing the kind of books you want to work with. That's a biggie. If you work in a publishing company, you don't have any of that. You are an employee. And by the way, I started out, I didn't tell you, but right out of college, I worked for Viking Press. Anybody remember Viking Press way back then? It got eaten up also. And I was the editorial assistant for 6 months. I quickly figured out that in that big industry, I was in Manhattan. It was, when was it I graduated? It was like in the late 60s. That it was, there weren't a lot of opportunities to become real editors in a big publishing house. Those jobs were taken, and for example, Jackie Kennedy came in after I left and became an editor at Viking. So I left for California at that point. That's when I left. But back to my point, which is that freelancing is different than having a job. Okay, it's very different. And okay, so one thing I wanted to say is that one of the real benefits for me has been pretty much every book I have worked on has actually been something that grew and changed me. So this is a perk of being a freelance book editor. I could select books I wanted to work on. I worked on some books I didn't want to work on, okay, of course. but I also could, where I worked on books I loved and the subjects of which I loved, and it changed me. So I grew as a person being a freelance book editor. It's one of the perks that you get. You grow. It was either the subject of the book or the interaction with the incredible author. My horizons expanded, and I had personal growth out of this career, and that's something you don't get from many careers. Okay, and of course, I got a great career out of being this experience. I did. I did it part-time for a while. I did it full-time for a while, back and forth. So those are all possibilities. So, so what will you learn tonight? Let me tell you what I'm going to cover that you're going to learn. You've heard all about me and how wonderful book editing is, but now I'm going to move in more to training you, giving you a taste of the training that would be something you would participate if you wanted to. And I'll tell you how you can do that. So my talk tonight, I'm going to cover these points. I'm going to give you an overview of the freelance book service business that is burgeoning today. It is a field that is wide open for people who want to jump in. I want to tell you about that. I'm going to also tell you why it matters, what difference it makes that you become a book editor. An interesting topic. And then number 3, I'm going to give you a taste of the skills, the art and craft, okay, that you can learn, and you must have in order to work with authors, especially directly as a freelancer. And the ones who are writing the holistic books. So we're going to get a little bit of that art and craft of shaping language and content. Like, how do you write a holistic book? How do you ghostwrite it? How do you edit it? I'm going to give you some good teaching about that. So I'm going to teach you as much as I can, but obviously we have limited time. Yikes. Wow. And, yeah. So I'm going to tell you how you can learn more also. Okay. And then if you'll please hold some questions. You probably have some. Hold them until I'm finished with the talk. I will give you a plenty chance to ask questions. And you can stick around after the talk is ended and talk to me personally also. Okay, handouts. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at an overview. The very simple thing is to define the terms. What does it mean to edit? What does editing mean? So, you know, an editor can be anything from someone who's at the head of a magazine or a newspaper and manages all the input. That's not the kind of editor that I'm talking about, okay? An editor can be someone who acquires manuscripts and books for a publishing company. This is, there's famous editors. There's even been a movie about one of them whose name I can't remember right now. But they, you know, sit at the top of the publishing company and they say yes or no to your manuscript. They're called acquisition editors. Then there's the copy editor. This is the person who actually looks at the manuscript, and they used to have these in the publishing companies. Now all of these kinds of jobs are outsourced to guess who? Freelance book editors. So these are line editors and developmental editors. So a line editor goes line by line through a manuscript and brings it alive through the language, through the grammar, through the choice of words, through checking all the things that are being said and making everything work. A developmental edit can go before or after that, usually before, looks at the organization of a book, watches the flow, makes sure every piece fits. That's like the big picture. So developmental and line editing are now done outside of publishing companies mostly by freelancers. Okay. And you can get jobs through companies. Susanna has worked with all the big publishers as a freelancer, like kind of on their list, like they call her, like, got this manuscript. What was your most famous one that you did recently? You did a famous one.
I have done a couple famous ones recently. I proofread the newest Leanne Moriarty. She did
Yes!
Big Little Lies, but I
Leanne
proofread her
Moriarty.
newer one, Truly, Madly,
She has a
Crazy,
new book.
something like that, yeah.
What was her movie, TV movie? That was
Big Little Lies on HBO.
Big Little Lies.
Yeah.
So that author comes to the traditional publisher that is jobbing out, and Susanna gets to work on it. Okay, so that's how that happens. Then there's ghostwriting. I talked a little bit about that already. You can become the with person, or you can become the person who is silently in the background. The more famous the person, the more the ghostwriter goes into the background. Because even though we know the famous scientist or whatever didn't write the book, the publisher will want their name all over it. It's the seller. You know, Deepak Chopra, how many books does he have? Like
Mhm.
18 or more? He didn't write them all.
More.
What?
I think he's got quite a few more than that.
Yeah, there's more, it's like 30 or 50 or so. He just turns them out because he's got somebody writing them, you know. That's ghostwriting. And, you know, you can get paid. I had to do a survey in order to determine my pricing to be a ghostwriter because I didn't know what I was worth. This was a few years ago I did this. I wanted to know what kind of bracket am I in? Can I charge, you know, $100,000? You know, so I went to the agents that I've worked with who know my work, know what I've done, and they said no, not 100,000. You're not quite there yet, but you could certainly charge 50 to 75 to write a book. And then that same agent gave me this book, which I did. Networking is everything in freelance. Who you connect with, who you talk with. No, wrong book. Whoops. Rhys Thomas's Discover Your Purpose. He paid me $40,000 to write this book. And I knew what to ask. And then I also wrote him a book proposal, Penguin Torture. And guess how much the advance was for the book? $40,000. He was so happy. He had just paid me, and then he gets all of it back because publishers give advances if they think the book is going to sell. And that sold big, continues to sell. Okay. Coaching. Coaching goes along with editing, and especially developmental editing, because people will come to you and they'll go, got a great idea, got some sketches, maybe even have a manuscript, but I don't know how to turn it into a book. Okay, I need to talk to you every week about each chapter, and so you can be available for that as an editor. So as a freelancer, you can line edit, you can developmental edit, you can coach, you can ghostwrite, and you can proofread. Have I covered it all, Susanna? What else you can evaluate manuscripts. That's a great little niche. You know, people will say, do you think this is a book? And you know, we'll give, you know, I think I charge anywhere from $2.95 to $4.95 depending on the size to evaluate a manuscript. Give it my best, you know, evaluation as to the industry standards that I know. Does it come up? Where is it? What is it going to need? What could I do for it to help you? And people pay you to do that. And they love anything you say. They're like, they know nothing. That's the other. So that is chuckling because, you know, in any profession, I call it the imposter syndrome, where you think, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. They're going to find me out soon. I can't do that. You know, we all have a little piece of this imposter syndrome, as somebody called it. I thought it was funny. And yet, what I found over the years is, well, everybody wants to write a book, and nobody knows how, put very simply. And very few people come at their first book, or even their second or third, with much confidence. It's a scary prospect. So, as you can provide anything, you are praised and loved instantly. I just found that to be true, and it helped me build my confidence, and also I learned a lot. I had some, you know, some bombs, of course, where it didn't go well. Not very many, but I remember them. So, back to the topic. What is the opportunity of book editing today? So the industry, as I said, is the traditional, the big five. New York book publishers, East Coast book publishers, they're kind of like dinosaurs right now. They are publishing books. You look on the bestseller list, New York Times, you'll see most of them, or a lot of them, are the big five. What are the big five? You know them better than I do because you work with them. I work with small presses and West Coast publishers, which I've got a list of, and I'm going to give them to you. But what are the big five?
Well, Macmillan, Simon & Schuster,
Simon & Schuster,
Penguin Random House,
Penguin,
Hachette Book Group,
Hachette Book Group. I
which
love
sounds
them.
so weird.
It's so weird, Hachette,
That's
but
like,
they have a
they
lot
own,
of
like Little
imprints.
Brown and stuff.
Yeah,
What's the fifth one? I can't remember the fifth one.
yeah. It's whatever. It's
But
good.
they're all those little, like Alfred Knopf and stuff, all those ones that you've heard of over the years have all combined.
Yeah, they all got
into
eaten up.
Just a few, yeah.
Exactly. So I have a handout I'm gonna put some handouts, just, I'll tell you about them, I don't wanna distribute them. This is the one, yeah. So 23 publishers who want your holistic, spiritual, self-help, or transformative nonfiction books. 23 of them. Accepting submissions with no agents needed. So when you have a resource like this to offer your clients whose book you're editing, they're very happy because they don't know where they're going to get their book published if they want it published by what we call traditional publisher, which is someone you don't pay. If you want to publish your own book, you pay. Simple. That's the difference. So these guys, you don't pay. They do it for you, and then they give you a deal. Maybe you get an advance, so you can pay the editor you hired to help. I get paid because I get people advances. That's one of the ways I get paid. I help them write book proposals. Anyway, I'm just going to put this here. It's enough for everybody. Got my one handout out, okay. So the statistics. What about self-published books? They're really the growing part of the market share. They're really big now, and they just keep increasing. I saw a statistic, 50% of market share goes to self-published books in 2016. That's what happened. People are doing it more and more, and they need editors even more than people who publish traditionally. They don't, and you've seen books that have come out that didn't get edited.
Yeah.
If I wrote a book, I would hire an editor. And I'm an editor. You can't write a book without an editor. It's too much of a personal outpouring of yourself to know what is it that other people are going to get. And to have that objective eye is very valuable. So that's why you're important. And when you develop a niche, like transformative nonfiction, which includes self-help, spirituality, health and well-being, memoirs. A lot of memoirs are coming out that we call them self-help memoirs, because they're also teaching from the experience of the person something. Okay, and in this niche called transformative nonfiction or holistic books, we include Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. One of the real classics that sure changed my life was Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God. Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan. Oh my God, we're going way back. Shakti Gawain, Creative Visualization. We're talking the 70s now. This was the forefront of that. A more recent one is Alejandro Junger wrote a book called Clean that started the whole movement in holistic health of cleansing. I love Thomas More, Care of the Soul. Some people wouldn't put that in this category, but that's what I'm talking about. Books that really do make a difference, transform lives. And then these authors, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Louise Hay, R.I.P. You know, she passed, if anybody knows her. She passed recently at 92. Grand old lady. I met her. So gracious, such a wonderful human being. Ariel and Debbie Ford. I think Debbie passed. Okay. By the way, Candace Pert passed also under mysterious circumstances in 2013, if you didn't know that. Her husband did not have an autopsy done. He just found her dead. We don't know really what happened, except there were complications of a lung clot, possibly something like that. Anyway, and by the way, we have been approached by an agent. Did anybody see the movie Hidden Figures? Okay, well, the agent who agented that book and movie has approached Candace Pert's husband and me as the author to do a movie. So you may well see a movie coming out in a couple of years on, if it takes that long, on Molecules of Emotion, the book I wrote with her. Very exciting. And we'll see how it goes. And then one of my favorite books of all time of this genre is called The Untethered Soul Michael Singer. Oh, he breaks all the rules that I'm going to teach you, by the way, but somebody who writes an astounding book can break all the rules. And that's an important part of a training as an editor. There are people who will break every rule and their book will shoot up, and I can't really explain why, but it happens. So, and then my other favorite, I want to show you one that is on the New York Times bestseller right now. I've been watching this book. I went to get it. It's not a book you would typically think would be on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list. Robert writes Why Buddhism is True. A Buddhist book? A book about Buddhist philosophy on the bestseller list? He did something very special in this book, and it's an illustration of 3 points I'm going to teach you that make a holistic book popular. So keep that in mind. And if you get a chance to read it, you're interested in meditation, is what he talks about mostly. That book is incredible. It's been six Sundays now. I keep looking at it. There it is again. Robert Wright. Okay. Okay, good. Finished with that. Now, why you becoming a freelance book editor matters. So why does it matter? We need more book editors. That's why it matters. We need people who are professionals about the latest conventions of grammar usage. Authors, writers don't keep up on that like editors do. And we have a Bible, editors have a Bible called the Chicago Manual of Style. It's online, and it just came out in its 17th edition. So it keeps revising as our language, the English language, morphs. Its language is one of the most changing languages of all languages, English. So the style manual for what's right and what's wrong changes every couple of years. So you have to keep up on that, and professional editors do that. So that's a service you offer authors. So are you up to date on your grammar and the current conventions? Would you like to take a little quiz and see what you know and what you don't know? Again, you will not be graded, but you will be surprised. So, maybe, Susanna, why don't you give a bunch to the back people there? Again, it's just 6 little questions, a yes, no. Are you up to date? So these questions test your knowledge of current grammar rules as called for by the 17th edition of the Chicago Manual of Style. So I'll just be quiet and let you circle yes or no on what you think is correct, what you think is not correct, and I'll give you all the answers. When you're finished, just let me know and I'll give you the answers. You can check yourself. Finished?
This is harder than the other one.
This is harder than the other, I know. Not yet. Anybody else want the answers? Oh, you did. What? Answers?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, please. Thank you.
I'll let you read them and see what you see. I'll give a little explanation at the bottom and actually where you can find that rule in the new Chicago. You can go online and just Google the Chicago Manual of Style, get it. Unfortunately, you must subscribe and pay money to get any in-depth with it. But you could go to those numbers I've given you and see where that new grammar rule is described, if you want more information about it. For years, I did internet with a capital I, and I would correct people. I can't do that anymore. Okay? That's why they pay me, because I can tell people that. Decision making. I wanted to put a hyphen in that for so long as a noun. Decision making is a wonderful thing. Couldn't do it until now. Now it's a noun. It was always an adjective you could do it, because you can hyphenate double words as adjectives, but you usually can't hyphenate them as nouns. Now you can. Oh, and the US one, number 6, always got me. Couldn't use it as a noun. Now I can. And always comes before US, the US, of course. You don't have to spell it out. You can say, the US is a great country. Rather than just US-made goods are very good. Okay. Okay, any questions about that? Comments about this little quiz? Were you
I
surprised?
know this is kind of a specific question, but
Sure.
if Wikipedia isn't italicized, is anything italicized?
Okay.
Like published books?
Published books are always italicized,
Okay, still.
except in the newspaper. They quote them.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Newspapers follow something called AP style, Associated Press style. It's more of the academic, more of the news journalism style. It'll have different rules. But trade books, fiction, nonfiction, mass-marketed trade books follow Chicago. So you always have to have your little Bible with you or on the internet. I use it every day. I can't possibly keep all this stuff in my head. Numbers, oh my God. Numbers. Which ones do you spell? Which ones do you use numerical notation for? And when does, crazy. Okay, good question though. Anything else about this? I found it very surprising when I saw this article. Okay, how are we doing? We got 10 more minutes? 10 minutes? Oh my goodness.
You're good.
I'm good. Okay, I could go on and on all night. Okay, so generally book editors are very valuable. That's my point. Very valuable. And personally, why it matters, of course, is, you know, if you are someone who is an English major or is just a creative wordsmith person, the value to you is you get to give your gift. And there's fulfillment and satisfaction off the scale in that, because when you walk into the bookstore, which there still are some of, or you, Bear Pond definitely, or Barnes & Noble, you walk in and you see a book you personally contributed to. Of course, if you wrote it, that's a big thrill too, but why stop there? You know, you could be the contributor, the one who made that book appear on that shelf. It's off the scale, fulfilling and satisfying. Huge. Gets me up every morning. So that's the benefit personally of doing this kind of work. Okay, I'm going to teach you about crafting language and content for holistic books. Language first. Okay, so a book editor crafts language because that's your clay that you're shaping with. Okay, you often as a book editor, you get the lump of clay on your potter's wheel, and then make it in a book, make it into a book, okay? So when you're writing a book that's the subject is transformative or spiritual or alternative health or healing or holistic or any of these kinds of books, you can use a certain kind of language that gets your message, their message or your message across. 3 mistakes people use that I've seen over the years when they go to write these kinds of books. The first one is pronoun use. So pronoun, I, you, we, they, okay? The we is a royal pronoun and is not appropriate for a book that wants to get to the heart of the matter. So The most common mistake holistic writers make is using the word we. Why do they do it? I just change it to you. So you want to be direct with people if you've got an important message. And, now I'm going to use the royal we myself. We are hesitant to be that authoritative, that in the face, that direct. But guess what? If you wrote the book, or you, as the writer, you already are the authority. People accept if you wrote a book, you can say anything. It's amazing. You really can. They'll do, okay, I'll do it. So remove the we, can go to the side. It comes in when it's appropriate. It's polite, but it's not always effective. So I do a lot of get the we out. Do a search, Microsoft Word search. Replace we with you, and then read your book and see how it sounds. People, oh my God, it's a completely different book. Talking to people. Yes, you're talking to people, because that's what you're doing in that kind of a book, in any book, really. But especially these kind of books. Number 2 mistake people make is not enough stories to illustrate points. So you can have a great concept, and you're explaining it, but if you don't tell a good story about it, it gets too much in the head, not enough in the heart, and you miss your audience. Number 3, jargon. There's a lot of jargon in these kinds of books and in this kind of philosophy that often a person will write a book who taught a class. They have a whole program, they teach, they're a great teacher in, for example, energy medicine, okay? But they have a jargon that they're familiar with, that they've used in their classroom, and everybody knows exactly what they're talking about. And then they go to write a book, and what? It doesn't translate. It needs to be unpacked and clarified. And then you can use terms if you want to introduce them. But a big mistake, people just use these terms that have no meaning to a lot of people, and it keeps your audience narrow. Your book will be great for the people who attend your workshops and your courses, but out there, they don't know what you're talking about. So I help people unpack jargon concepts and word them in ways that work. So those are 3 big things. And as far as content, so that's language, now content. So the content of these kind of books, well, it can range from memoir, it can be about alternative medicine and health practices, philosophy, spirituality, self-help for personal transformation. This is the content, okay? But what makes this content uniquely holistic? So 3 things. It's inspiring. It comes from inspiration. It's written because you are inspired. That's what makes it different. If you're writing a book with no inspiration, or you're editing and you're not inspired by what you're reading and shaping, it's not going to be as successful. So inspiration is important. The aim of the book is to uplift others. It's uplifting. Now, it could just entertain them or inform them. That's great. But these kind of books aim at uplifting. So they're inspiring, they're uplifting, and the flow of the writing is easeful. It's not tortured. It's not hard. There's a gentleness and an ease in these kind of books. Those 3 things really make your content work. And the third thing on the content is it's really important, even in a holistic book, to have an organizing principle. How do you organize this book? A lot of books come to me with no organization. They're just like, well, I said what I needed to say. Great, wonderful story, great, it's even inspiring, it's great. But you didn't follow, it's your memoir, and you didn't follow chronological order. I'm working on one right now. No chronological order. We get to the end of the book, and she's talking about the beginning of her life. She fills in a whole piece, like, well, wait a minute. I wanted to know about that back then, especially memoirs. You've got to have a principle that organizes it. In a memoir, it's chronological. And if it's more of a prescriptive how-to book, it would be maybe step by step. First step, second step, third step, organizing principles. So these are things you can help authors do. So I'm pretty much done, and I want to answer this question. How can you develop your own freelance book editing business? How can you do that? Okay. And there's 6 steps. So here's my prescriptive book. 6 steps, and I'm going to hand these out, my last handout, so you can see them. So glad to see all of you here. This is wonderful. That's great. I've long had a theory. Why don't you just take one and hand them back, and take one and hand them back. I've long had a theory that there were people who wanted to do book editing all over the place. Just like people who want to write books. Everybody wants to write a book. If you start scratching the surface with people about do you want to write a book? You will be amazed. Everybody wants to write a book. And that's why book editors are needed. We call that networking, when you ask somebody, would you like to write a book? You're a book editor. And I have great stories of people I just stumbled upon. I went, really? Aren't you writing a book about that great thing you do? Yeah, but I don't know if I could ever do it, you know. Oh, well, here's my card. Okay, did anybody know Barbara Marx Hubbard? Ever heard of her? A futurist?
Yeah.
She was at a cocktail party where I was, because we taught at the same college. She was like a guest teacher. And I loved her books. I'd read them for years. I went up to her, chatted, hello, I'm one of your fans. When are you writing your next book? Her face went like, oh, such a struggle. What's going on? It's almost finished, but I can't seem to get the ending on the book. Oh, you've got a book you're working on. Oh, I just happened to have I got the book. She actually cried when she gave it to me. She was so attached to this book. She took me on a weekend retreat to give me the book. And at the end of the weekend, she gave me the book. My baby! Oh. And Emergence was the name of that book. Written in 1998, I think. Okay, so top 6 steps. 6 steps to becoming, this is what you need to do to become. Is there any extras back there? I didn't say one for me. I bet there are. Thank you. Well, where's yours?
Oh, you take mine, Nancy.
Yeah, I got an extra.
I'll get another one for you.
Okay, I'll get you. Yeah, well, I'm going to go through it very quickly, though, because we're pretty much done now. Step 1, learn the basics. Get oriented to the whole biz and art and craft. You got to get an orientation. I'll let you read in more detail. Number 2, create what your audience, who do you want to work with? What's your niche? Create that and aim for that. And there's ways to do that and ways to get positioned so you're getting all fiction. What if you want to do editing of fiction? Okay, that hasn't been my specialty, but you can enter that field. Step number 3, you got to set up a business. You got to set up an office. How do you do that? What's your life like as a freelancer? Step number 4, learn to communicate effectively with authors. This one's so important. Authors are an interesting breed. They're people, and it's their baby that you're working on. And so communicating with them, giving them feedback, being your own authority with an author. You're not the secretary. You're not they're not your boss, is what I meant to say. They're not your boss. You're the boss. That's an interesting perspective to have. You're the expert when it comes to editing. They came to you and they're paying you for your expertise. So you have to be able to stand there. Number 5, get paid. How do you know what to ask for? How do you know what to price? You know, and there are associations that study this that you can go to. I'll tell you one right now. EFA.org. EFA, Editors Freelancers Association, has a pricing schedule. Now, what you can pay, what you can expect to get for proofreading, for line editing, for developmental, for ghostwriting, all the prices. However, it hasn't changed in 10 years on that website, and I disagree with them. I charge more. I got a lot of experience. Of course, I'm going to charge more. But not even starting out as low as anywhere between 30 to 50 an hour. Too low, way too low. That would be a brand new novice, just out of the gate, maybe. You could quickly move up from there. So don't let EFA dictate too much of the reality about that. They know that too. There's critique of them. They're the only people giving pricing, and they're giving low pricing, EFA. Right, Susanna? Do you agree with their prices?
I think it depends on developmental versus copy editing, because copy editing 30 to 50 is pretty standard per
Yeah.
hour,
Yeah,
but developmental editing, I
develop,
agree
they,
with you,
yeah, they have it much
higher.
lower.
Yeah.
So, anyway, and then marketing. How do you market yourself? How do you get out there? Hey, networking is really one of the main ways. You can internet market and get somebody to help you do that. You can learn how to do that. Susanna, you know how to do that really well. We're going to be doing that with the course offerings that we give. But it's also networking, talking to people. Actually, everyone wants to write a book. Everyone, just keep that in mind, they all want to write a book. And they're all afraid. Okay, now, just so happens that these 6 steps form the backbone of a course that Susanna and I are offering here in Montpelier live time as our first kind of run on this, and then we're going to put a curriculum up online. That's our plan. We've named our business Edit. You'll see down at the bottom here. And it's a full-service editorial training program. And this is our first course that we're setting out. So if you are interested, it'll be in January. We don't have a date. We don't have a location. We have a curriculum, and we're working on putting all the things together. We're brand new. It will be given very likely in this space or a space downtown Montpelier, 1 night a week for 6 weeks. If you're interested in that, have a sign-up clipboard over there. Just write your name and your email down. And we'll get in touch with you in December sometime, let you know the details. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your listening and your participation. Now, questions, right? We got a little time for questions?
A little bit of time, yeah.
Should we do it informally or formally? How do you do this? Well, anyway. Okay,
Formally informal.
Both of us.
Formally.
Okay, go. Who would like to ask a question? Just raise your hand. Yes.
I noticed you talked some about books that have been made into movies. That
Yes.
seems to be happening a lot. Could
Yes.
you give your perspective of the steps and
I
How
was
they
very
gonna happen?
surprised to find out the new thing that's going on. This top agent of the Hidden Figures, right? The woman who wrote that book, Satterlee is her last name. It's her first name. Satterlee, I know that's her last name. She was not finished writing that book when she was approached. Let's make this into a movie. What a great idea. I said, well, I haven't even finished it. How do you know?
How do you know? It's a
How do
good
you-
idea.
No, I know it'll be great. Trust me. They wrote the treatment before the book was finished. So then they have both a book and a movie coming out together. And now that's the new packaging thing. The agents are offering authors, you get the movie rights, you get the movie upfront money, and you get the book deal. So we're taking Molecules of Emotion, Dr. Mike Ruff, Candace Pert's husband, and I, we're taking this to that agent, and we're going to write a new book. I don't think I'll be the writer, though. We're going to get a professional. I don't want to be the writer for that. I did mine. Anyway, new book and a movie, and a whole movie thing will be done from that. So someday we may see it. Did that answer you? That's all I know about it. I'm
How
learning.
about,
Yeah.
these people are well known. What if it's a book, it's a good story?
She
but not-
wasn't, Satterlee wasn't known at all. She's she's a researcher.
So someone was
In fact, I
looking.
read Hidden Figures, the book. Boring.
Yeah.
It's very boring. I'm sorry. I mean, it's heroic because these 3 women, went to NASA. Black African-American women got the first astronaut on the moon, got him home. They were amazing mathematicians, so their story is told. But the book is way heavy and loaded with such research. She's not a great writer. Somebody saw the potential.
Yeah, so you're saying
There's hope.
They adapted it a lot.
They adapted it very much. They
Oh,
made
yeah.
friends. The
Good old
women
they
were
always do.
friends. They made them friends. They created all kinds of stuff.
So it's more about a good story.
It's about a good story. That's what caught that book.
But
Yes.
somebody just happened to see the book in progress, is that it? You said it wasn't finished.
Right. Somebody heard she was writing it, went, saw what she was doing, went, this is a story that has to be told. You know, African-American women put a man on the moon and got him back and worked at NASA in the 60s and the 70s, were mathematicians and did better math than the guys there. It's an incredible story. It really did happen. It's very true.
Well, what's incredible is that nobody knew about it.
And nobody knew about it. They
It's
were
less incredible, I mean,
yeah.
Not really.
anyways, it's another whole.
Yeah.
Of course they did. Of course
So it
no
had
one
to
knew.
come out.
Well, but it's not
Just kidding.
incredible.
Just kidding.
You know what I mean?
Just
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
You had a
That's
question.
another whole book.
Yeah, I do have a question, and that is, how do you form a business from a rural location like Vermont,
Yeah.
and
Two
you're
ways,
not in San
yeah.
Francisco or New York?
Yeah, I was positioned very well. I lived in Santa Barbara, California. I was in LA a lot. I had a lot of opportunities. People come through my community that I could connect with. So in a more rural area, you can go to conferences in the New England area. And one conference could give you 10 jobs. They're so hungry for editors. They're thirsty. So going to conferences and networking locally and within your area. And the internet. Market on the internet. Get it out. Yeah, I'm available. I'm taking manuscripts. Also call up publishing companies. Oh, I have a list of
And
20.
one big thing is just to not go at it alone, get some support, you know,
Yeah.
there's so many different ways. Nancy's
Get
program
a
is
coach.
amazing.
Get a coach.
Like I couldn't imagine growing this business to the extent that it has if I hadn't had support. You know, so getting support is
Yeah.
really, I would say, pretty key.
Yeah.
You know, find somebody who's accomplished what you want to accomplish and learn from them.
Absolutely.
So,
And join a mentoring group and get mentored. It's going to be part of the program that we're offering. So we're going to be training editors. So that's like a whole new niche that's opening up. And in that training, we're going to provide mentoring and support and all kinds of things. Yes.
You mentioned how Untethered Soul broke all the rules, and I was waiting to hear what rules he
He
broke.
doesn't tell
because
any stories.
I love that book.
Oh, you
I
do?
lo- It is a transformative
Yeah,
book for
yeah.
me.
That you read
He
that
doesn't
book
tell
and
any
your
stories.
molecules are rearranged.
Yeah.
They really
Yeah.
are. They just go boo 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 boo, right?
Right.
But he doesn't tell hardly any stories. He's not just weaving stories, so he doesn't follow the formula.
Yeah.
He does. I think he uses the you pronoun enough so that it didn't jar me. And what was my third thing? Was the jargon.
The jargon.
He can get away with jargon because he's so, I don't know. I wish I knew
Authentic.
why that.
Authentic.
What? Authentic.
So authentic.
He's so authentic.
That
You
you
feel like
He
someone's
takes you
soul.
for a ride. 'Cause he's-
Untethered Soul. Check it
it's so
out. It
authentic.
was a sleeper for a couple of years and then it caught on. Michael Singer, this word is interesting. My
Tethered.
spell check doesn't like this word.
Yeah, but that's it. Untethered soul.
Untethered means no binding. Untethered, like a horse, untethered soul.
That's why there's a
Like a
horse
man
on
in
the
space.
cover.
Yes, and
That's
there's
why
a
there's
horse
a horse
on the cover. Michael Singer. Awesome guy. Love to meet him sometime. And he's written a few other books too. He sings his books. His books are so from the heart, from the soul. It's like a song, and you're just breathless with his books. So,
So this
as
is
an
a-
editor for him, well, you wouldn't
It's
say
a good gift.
what?
It happens. It's a good gift to give people.
Oh, it
I've
is?
given it to all kinds of people, and it blows their mind.
Oh,
And years later, they say to me, "Thank you for that book."
yes, it's one of those.
So it's just something that
It's a keeper.
it just it,
I read
You read it,
Something
yes,
something
yes.
just transcend.
Yes, yeah.
They do.
It's a
And
magical
other
book.
things are good books to read.
Yes, and some books follow formulas and get the thing across and follow the rules. But every once in a while you get a book that breaks all the rules and it becomes big and you wonder, what happened? Any
So
other?
this is a transformational book, I guess. I never
Yes.
heard of it.
It
Yeah.
is,
Yes,
yeah.
I would call this a transformational nonfiction book.
It's at Bear Pond. isn't
It's at Bear Pond, absolutely,
Oh,
because it was
it's
my
so
staff pick
popular,
at Bear
yeah.
Pond for many
One
months.
of the
Oh.
all-time current best-selling
okay.
spiritual, we might call it spiritual, but he doesn't talk about God or philosophy in it, or religion. He's not talking about that.
What does he talk about?
You have to get it and read it.
Awareness.
No,
Yeah.
just go
Or else
ahead.
I'd
He
get
talks
started
about
and get
awareness.
to stop.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe. And for years, people told me that, and they didn't tell me what it was about, so I didn't go for it. And then when I picked it up, I went, oh my God.
Yeah, I often tell people, if you're looking, they say, I want something transformational, but there's so much Buddhist stuff in our store. And I'm like, it's like Buddhism, but for everybody.
Yeah,
Because he
without
talks about
being-
awareness without sort of getting into the jargon of Buddhism.
Yeah, right. He doesn't narrow, he's not narrow, he stays very broad. It's just beautiful. The minute you open any page, you'll get it. You'll see, oh, whoa, this is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
You'll jump in.
Um,
Yeah.
I self-published a book, but I used probably 10 different editors.
10.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I had some specialized areas that I needed
What was the subject?
expertise
Can you
in.
tell me the subject?
Just spiritual topics, and had
Oh.
Native American traditions
Wow.
and Sufi retreats and
Oh,
other
yummy.
things, but I found, I would use one person, like a woman who worked at the New Age Journal, just skim through it all and, help me just cut out, and someone
Yeah.
else would get into the
Developmental
grammar.
editing, yeah.
Yeah, so I use different editors for different purposes.
Yes.
So I see a lot of,
That
networking
happens,
could
and
happen
that is
depending on
not
your
uncommon.
specialty.
When did you push this?
We're like, where can we get it?
Two of them just came out last month,
Oh, title?
so, Swan Song,
Swan Song. Here we go.
yes.
Swan Song. I've heard,
and
did I
The
hear?
Cosmic Guru.
What about the
They're on-
guru?
They're online, The Cosmic Guru.
The Cosmic Guru.
Yeah,
Ooh,
they're,
nice title.
they're what you would call, self-help memoirs, I guess.
A self-help
true.
memoir,
Yeah,
yes. Story of your experience in a way that helps others. You could just tell your experience, but you
Well-
built in some kind of self-help or how-to into it. Yeah.
And what's your name?
Randy Phelps.
Phelps?
Randy
Only
Phelps.
because I could put that in at the store and find a million things that weren't your book, so.
Okay. Yeah.
It just is a marketing tool. I
Okay.
know it's hard, we
Yeah.
try to be humble, but tell us your name.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep,
But
I'm writing that down.
It's on ebooks and through Amazon and everything else, so.
that's great.
It was
That's
fairly.
great.
Well,
So
congratulations.
editors were
Yeah.
helpful to you.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
it
what
wouldn't have
you-
been the same book without good editors. I found.
See? Now, editors do work specialties. For example, Susanna specializes in copy editing. But she also does other kinds. So, and some people specialize in developmental. I've done a lot of developmental. But I can do line or copy editing. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear you have 10 different editors.
And where did you find your editors?
Searching, some online, I used, and some of them, I had to try 2 or 3 different online until I found someone that really was
Yeah.
capable to do
Hard
what
to
I
find
wanted them to
editors.
do. You know, it's,
There's a lot of people who are editing out there that maybe just, I've seen some work that, yikes! Okay,
Yeah.
and they wrote their PhD thesis, so they figure, okay, I can help somebody put together a book.
Yeah.
Yet they're like academic and narrow, and they didn't see a big possibility, so, you have to be careful. One good question as a writer to ask is, what is your style guide? And if the person says, well, what do you mean? Or, AP, doesn't say Chicago. Chicago's the magic word. You want a book editor who's working with the Chicago Style Guide.
I,
Just the basics.
I asked for their credentials
And
to
credentials.
pick out the person that I wanted.
Well,
He's a Berkeley professor.
What?
He was a Berkeley professor who I
Yes.
ended up with, and he had done, hundreds of books. He told me,
Wow.
what he had
Okay.
done before, so it's.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's hard to find good editors. It's not an easy, there's no easy way. So if you can position yourself as available, and you'll be very surprised how much in demand you could be. It's a big surprise.
I've read manuscripts by editors with long resumes, impressive resumes, and I couldn't believe that they had been edited. It's so horrible. Really, it's
Sorry
Yeah.
to say, I've seen some
No,
really.
I don't mean you, I haven't read anything that you've edited, but,
Well, come on up, I'll show you.
Okay.
My-
Yeah.
Oh, I do have a client list, just for you. Thank you for reminding me. I kept it under wraps. 'Cause I didn't want to boast too much, but I have worked, where's my black bag? It's up here, believe, oh, yes, there it is. These are the people I've worked with, and, I wanted to make it available for, and you can always, write me and get this, so I'm gonna give it to you. Anybody else would like to
Thank
see
you.
my client list? Now,
Sure.
I'm kind of acting as an editor here when I'm
Yes.
really wanting to tell you about training,
That's okay.
but for some reason you may want to know.
It's good to
And if
know.
I don't have enough, then you can email me. I have
Because
cards on the
She'd like
table.
one.
Yeah.
That's right, I just don't
I
know.
want your card.
You want my card?
I can make
Oh,
copies if you need some copies of anything.
Okay,
Oh,
do we need copies of that client list?
Who needs something?
Who needs
I'll
a,
go make I'll go make some copies.
okay,
Because
How many do we need? Probably 5 or 6.
I'm all set.
yeah. Here's the sign-up sheet for the course
Okay.
and my business card. So if you want more information about an actual class to get trained as a book editor, that's what to do. And you can take my card for contacting me. And we have a website called Editors in Training.
It's editorsintraining.com.
.com.
There's no
But
site yet.
There's no site yet.
There will be.
We bought the domain.
got the domain.
We got the
domain.
And we're gonna throw something up there as soon as we get all our location and all that kind of stuff settled. And it'll be the first notification, so you'll see that if you sign up over there.
Need help with your website?
I was just gonna say, who's
Yes,
helping,
we
who's
want a
building your
WordPress
website?
site. So if anyone does WordPress, I can do a Squarespace site. You do WordPress?
WordPress.
All right, because we need
I know,
to be
did
pretty
you, but if
robust.
you do something, I didn't wanna,
I'm on WordPress as well.
she's on
Oh,
WordPress.
yeah, okay.
We'll arm wrestle after.
I'm sure there's plenty of work on
I'm
different
kidding.
components.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. I have a niece who's just incredible with words. I'm trying to entice her to move to Montpelier, so I think I'm gonna send her this.
Oh,
Awesome.
good.
Awesome.
I should probably get in
These
touch
are-
with
I
her.
call these people creative, us people creative wordsmiths.
She could really
Because,
use
Yeah,
something
I
like
wouldn't
this
call
again.
myself a writer back then. I wouldn't call myself, I didn't know I could be an editor back then. What was I? I was the English major with no job.
Which is redundant.
Exactly.
Many of us have been English majors, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how many English majors graduated and they love words, it's your passion, but there's no job, they're not hiring.
Well, part of why Nancy and I decided to do this is that we both feel like we got really lucky, sort of ending up in a career where we can actually use our native-born talents with language that's normally out in the world, nobody cares.
Right.
But as an editor, you get paid for it.
Yeah, and you
So
get
Okay, one
appreciated.
last month?
we wanted to really spread that because I feel bad for people who have those talents and are kind of toiling away as an administrative assistant somewhere. Like, you
Right.
know, it doesn't feel good to not be able to use your
There's a new
skills.
game in town, there's a new job, they are now hiring us, the wordsmiths are getting hired. So that's my message
That's
of
wonderful.
hope and goodwill. So thank you again, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll stick around a little bit for one-on-ones. Appreciate your listening.
I want to thank Nancy again for coming today. Thank you for your
Thanks for the
generosity.
opportunity, my
Sharing your
Very
expertise,
generous
I mean,
information, thank you.
What an honor to have an expert like Nancy come and share
Yeah,
as much
thank
as you
you.
shared, so that was really magnificent.
It's fun.
Anybody feeling inspired?
Oh,
Yeah,
totally.
definitely.
Yeah, totally,
Oh,
right?
good
So,
question.
yeah, so
Good.
one of the keys to being successful as a business owner, as an editor, or really in any business, anything in life, is to take that inspiration and take it to the next level,
That's exactly.
right?
Yep.
So, you know, Nancy has a program,
Access.
to a program she's launching. You know, I would say if you're feeling inspired, take it to the next level. You know, engage with Nancy. She could help you to get your business going successfully. And in fact, I would have to say that there's a lot of expertise right in this room between the two of us in our respective fields. And I would say that our programs would actually complement each other
Yes.
quite nicely.
Yes.
Right? Where you provide the editorial, direct editorial.
Yeah.
What our program does is really provides a broad-based business curriculum, right? If you got a grant to enroll in our program, you could get, 10 one-on-one coaching sessions with a private coach. You get access to a full suite of online training modules. You're going to get a full-day workshop with me to help you grow your business. Plus, I do twice monthly coaching Q&A calls with clients all over the state. We're expanding that out to include all over the country. But basically, all of this is designed to help you realize your fullest potential in your work and in your life. And it's a real beautiful thing because you can get a grant to help you pay for it.
It's really important what you said because it's a business. And what mostly Susanna and I are doing is training people in the craft and the art and the skill, okay, with some business support. But what Jason is saying is that you want to have a business structure with this. Don't go in thinking you can just do it. I mean, I stumbled for years with no business structure, I gotta tell you. I had my lucky break, but then how do I make it into a business? You know, 25 years later, I still am learning how to do a business out of this, meaning the marketing, meaning, you know, the systems, the planning, the
Yeah.
finances,
There's
all of
so,
that.
so much
So
to it.
there's a lot to do, and you can benefit hugely by having a good business coach.